What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are in the shop and we're going to continue working on the XJ budget build. So in the last video on the XJ, I pretty much finished up the whole lift install, but I still needed to put on the sway bar and do a couple of odds and ends, things like that. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get the sway bar on, but before we do that, we're going to install with the sway bar this steering box brace from Barnes 4-wheel drive. So I've got it in the paint booth right here. I hit it with some Seymour paint and it's almost dry. I literally just painted it right before I put the battery in the camera. So that's what I really like about Seymour paint, is that it dries super quick, especially when, as much as I forget to paint stuff right before I have to install it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that on, but basically what it does is it bolts up right into the unibody here, and then it actually has a brace that goes around this steering box that, you know, supports it, so it limits the movement from side to side that these steering boxes will get. Because that unibody, you know, just like any unibody, it is very thin walled and it can actually move back and forth. So that steering box brace eliminates all of that. And the steering box braces really aren't that much, but they definitely work, because I have this exact one on my Comanche and I love it. Alright, so up underneath the Jeep here, you can do this on the ground, but just because I already have it on the lift, I'll do it there. And plus it's easier for YouTubing. So I'm going to set that kind of right there, and then I'm going to be using the factory bolts just for right now, just to hold it, just like that. And I'm going to get a bolt on the opposite side. It does come with all grade 8 hardware, but like I said, I just want this just to hold it on for right now. Cool. So while that's being held, I've got to get the mounts that actually hold it on, that actually pinches the steering box. So these are the brackets that actually hold the steering box, and what it does is these tabs that come out on both sides right here, it basically just uses that as a pinch point and holds on to that steering box right there. So any torque that is being applied to the steering box, it's basically held on by this, and which doesn't allow it to move. So that's pretty cool. So I got you in there a little closer. So I'm going to feed this up just like that. Then I'll take this one and put on the back right there. Then I kind of hold on to it. And then I'll take Then I'll take the supplied bolt right here, just kind of run through the back. Just like that. So now I'll take the other side and send up. Alright, so it looks like you got to get them started at the same time. There we go. Here's kind of an underview of what it looks like. So once you get those bolts started, it is kind of a chore to get them started, just because they made the bolt holes very tight, which is what you want. But you got to feed these, you got to feed a washer and this lock nut that comes with the kit. Just got to put those on. So now that I have the nut on the bolts, I'm going to go ahead and tighten them up just a little bit. So I'm not tightening them up all the way just because this thing has to be pushed up all the way once the sway bar is all on. So I'm just going to leave these kind of loose for right now. So now I can get the sway bar up here, grab one of the bolts that came with the kit, send it through like that. Started. Come right here and get this one started. Now I'll do the same thing for the passenger side. So before I get these torqued down properly, there are some bolts that come with the kit that actually go behind right here. And I'm just going to get that one started. And the one on the passenger side also. So now what I'm going to do is just go and tighten all of these up. So I'll probably tighten this side, go to that side, tighten that side, then come back and just make sure that they're all torqued down the way they're supposed to be. So now that I have those 6 bolts all torqued down, I can come back and torque these bolts down that's holding the steering box. Alright, and that's it. So the next thing that I'm going to do is work on getting the Jeep down back on its own weight, and I'm going to go get the sway bar disconnects put on. Alright, so the Jeep is back down on its own weight, which is where you want to set up your sway bar. So you want this sway bar right here, the point right there, you want this as level as possible. And so this kit right here, it comes with these mounts. They go like this, and this sits on top, goes right in like that through there. And you just tighten this up. I did put a little bit of Loctite in here. Spin that on. And you want to make sure that it stays in this orientation like that. Go ahead and tighten that up. I'm just gonna get snug right now. So on the bottom you have this piece right here from Rough Country, and that just goes in like that. And I always like to just have my open spot for the quick disconnect piece pin right there. And then this actually, a nut goes on like that. Forgot to put the washer on. Alright. I'm not going to tighten that up just yet, actually. So then you get your sway bar. Make sure you put your jam nut on right there. That's what keeps the threads not from getting jerked all around. And this goes up like that and over like so. And then what you do is get your pin, drop right in there, just like that. Cool deal. I'm actually going to take this out and make it a little smaller, or a little shorter, just a little bit. And then this this locking nut right here goes right there on the back. And tighten that up. So I'm going to tighten all this up and do the same thing to the passenger side, and we'll be good to go. So I have the radiator draining right now, making a huge mess in my shop. That is like nails on a chalkboard to me. I absolutely hate fluids in my shop floors, but it's one of those things, you just got to do it. I'd rather go ahead and drain all the coolant here than when I take the water pump off, because I have to replace the water pump. I don't want it just dumping all over my shoes. I know some will come out, but at least I can contain some of it. But so this is the water pump that I'm going to be putting on right here. I got to be putting a thermostat on too, so I'll probably go ahead and start taking all this stuff off just slowly. Man, this thing is gunked up. Look at that. Gross. Alright, so now that all the fluid has leaked out onto my floor, I'm going to start taking the thermostat housing off. Yeah. Alright. So inside of this thermostat housing, you can see inside of the block here, and it is not great. This thing definitely needs a coolant flush. Oh man. Wheel. And there wasn't even a thermostat in it. It was just open. See right here, there was no thermostat in it. All right. So now what I'll do is probably go ahead and take the belt off and try to get this water pump off. So I know a lot of people always have issues getting these bolts off the front of the water pump. But what I do is just put one wrench on, and then I can't do it while holding the camera, but you can push the two wrenches together and they'll break free, just enough for you to get an impact on it. So this one is tight. See, tight. So I'll put one wrench right here and just push together. So I'm just loosening up the belt tensioner with a 15mm wrench or socket. I'm going to get the belt off. Come on. Alright. So we got the belt out of the way. Let's drop that down there. I'm going to come back in here with my 13mm and see if I can get all these gross bolts out. Alright. Oh, I forgot. I got to get that bottom hose off too. It's like the most important part. Alright, so pretty much got the water pump all the way off. I can't get that bottom hose off. It's got 2 hose clamps on it. I didn't know that. And then this I got to take off. Alright. Man, this has been a chore. Ugh. Gross. Come on, baby. Break free. Oh, there we go. We got the water pump out. I have an update. It started pouring down rain, so it couldn't really hear me talk anyway, so I just kept on working. And plus, I didn't really have a good point of view for y'all, but what I did was I took a wire brush and cleaned this up the best that I could. I still got to take a razor blade and get some of that old gunk. That's definitely not a factory gasket, and then I cleaned up as best as I'm going to down here. I need to clean some of this up before I put the belt on. So I've got all the bolts, got them in the holes where they go. I've got my gasket right there. I'm going to clean it off one more time before I put this on there. So now I'm going to get these 4 bolts in. Now I just got to get the belt back on and tightened up, and we'll be done with the water pump portion. Yeah. All right. So now I just got to tighten this up, that bolt right here, 15mm, until the belt is where I want it, and then we'll move on to the thermostat. So I have my thermostat here. I did drill a tiny pinhole at the top. I'm going to put that right there. Should stay. And I did clean the back of the thermostat housing. Clean that up pretty good. So I'm just going to put a little bit of gasket maker on here. A little bit on the back of this. The next thing that I'm going to work on is something that I've been wanting to do ever since I first saw this Jeep, was get rid of these stupid fans. So I'm just going to cut right here. It should be pretty easy to remove them because there's nothing holding them in. Sweet. So what I'm going to be installing is these electric fans. There's 3 of them. It's got its own little fan shroud right here, and made in China. So hopefully it'll fit. It did come with a relay. I put it somewhere. It came with a relay and a couple of wires, so hopefully this will plop right in and I can wire it right up. But it should be a lot better than those fans that were running backwards. So, all right. So let's see how close these fans are. So I need to take this top plate off. There we are. Alright, so no way. Ha! That's really cool. So there's two slots at the bottom that it fits in, and then these two bolts on the factory radiator, they pull up right there. No way. Cool deal. That's awesome. I'm super excited about that. So now I've just got to find some little nuts right there. I need to make sure that it's flush. So all I have to do is just put some washers on here, make sure that it's lined up in the groove on the bottom right there. Tighten them up. Man, I just knew I was going to have to be cutting and modifying and everything. That is a relief. Sweetness. So now I need to get the wires all out just to make sure I can get to them, because before there was nothing holding this radiator on. So now I've got to figure out how to make the radiator not be all floppy. Put this back on. Whoa. Good thing nobody's home. Making sure that the fan clearances everything. Alright, so it is the next night and we are in the shop, and I've been doing some wiring trying to get these fans wired up, and I've about got that knocked out. And while I'm doing some wiring on the Jeep, I'm going to go ahead and install these JeepCables, which replaces all of the grounds and the positives that go from the battery to certain spots under the hood. This is what they call the Big 7. And this kit pretty much comes with everything that you need and cool stickers. And it comes with new terminals. Comes with a fuse block there for the alternator. There's the two fuses. So this is the same kit that I installed on the TJ build, and JeepCables sent these out for us to install. They worked extremely well on the TJ. They were super simple to install, and what's really cool that I like about it is it's pretty much idiot proof. So this goes to the battery on the negative. It says it right there, and then it says the fender. So they're all marked where they need to go. So fuse, alternator, engine block, ground. It's perfect. And this Jeep, you can see right here, it's kind of sad, some of the wiring, but this is how it came. But a lot of these wires, you know, this Jeep is 24 years old, and these wires, they start getting corrosion in them. So once you start getting corrosion in these wires, or they start getting gummed up, the connections aren't that great, you start having weird issues. A lot of times when you have wiring issues or sensor issues, you can't figure it out, all it is there's not a good signal going to the wires or to the sensor, and it leads back to gunked up corrosion or something in these 24-year-old wires. So I'm going to start taking these off and get them ready to install. So even though this is already disconnected, obviously before you start messing with any electronics on your Jeep, make sure that you have everything disconnected from the battery, and make sure that you don't have it like right here or something where it can touch. You want to make sure you get it out of the way or remove the battery completely. I may end up just taking the battery out. That way I have room and everything. I can get my camera in there and show you what I'm doing. I'm just going to move that out of the way. Come right here and pick the battery up. First bolt that I tried to get out broke. It was that 10mm that went right here on the fender. So I tried to get it out with vice grips. I may end up just drilling another hole and putting another bolt in it myself. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start tearing apart this old crusty wiring shrouds. Go ahead and get those out of the way. You see right there, that one's already coming all apart. Yeah, it's dry rotted. Garbage. So now that I've got most of that wiring shroud out of the way, I'm going to come right here and take off this cover for the fuse panel. And I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to have to modify it, but I'm going to reuse it, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So now I'm going to be taking off this 1/2 inch right here. It is a little annoying doing this just because Jeep just jumps back and forth to, standard and metric, but it'll be alright. That's just Jeep life. So I'm going to take this off. I can just pull these up. That one goes underneath. Just going to feed that back under there. So now I'm going to start taking these terminals apart. See that? Yeah, there's no way that was making a good connection anywhere. I don't even know what this is. So I'm going to have to trace some wires and see if this is important or if I just need to eliminate this. But I'm just going to tuck that out of the way right now and get rid of this wire. So this wire, one end went to the battery terminal and then one end went to the fuse block here. So that's garbage. I can kind of pull this around. Start getting rid of these wires right there. So one of the reasons I took the battery out is so that y'all could see this nut right here on the back of the alternator. It's right there. Take that nut off and then pull the wire up. And I can go ahead and get this one all the way out. Here is the other wire. Won't be needing that. There are some wires that plug into the back of the alternator. I'm going to keep those on there. And then I'm just going to take this nut and just put right back on it. That way I don't lose it. Alright, so now I'm going to take this other positive red wire, and that goes all the way to the starter down there. So underneath the Jeep, you want to take this 1/2 inch bolt off the starter. You can get to it from the top, but it's just easier to me to get it from the bottom here. And go ahead and take that off. So now I'm going to go ahead and get that starter wire pulled up. So now I'm going to take the ground that goes to the terminal to the engine block, and it's held on by a, can't remember if it's a 13 millimeter or a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take that off and just make sure you put that one back on. So now got that one off. So the only other one that I have to do is the ground strap that goes to the firewall to the back of the engine block, but I'll probably get that one last because that one's kind of a pain in the butt. So I can just walk to my little table, and let's do, so I'm going to do the starter one first. So see, this one says starter and that one says battery positive. So I'll just feed this one down and get under the Jeep and get it installed. So the next one that I'm going to do is the alternator to the fuse block. So let's see. You can see it goes, focus, right there. I'm going to attach that just like that. I forgot to put the stupid cover on, so I got the factory little cover piece that goes right there. And so that just goes on just like that. And then I'll take the factory nut, just put that back on. That one is a 10 millimeter, I believe. So once you get that all tightened up, you can reach in and put the weird little cover on. So this is the fuse block that comes with the JeepCables kit. It's pretty nice quality stuff. So you got some washers, a lock washer. Take this off. So all you do is take your fuse, put in there like that, put a washer on, and then the wire that says fuse from the alternator, just pop right there. Get the lock washer on, and get the nut, and then you get the nut on. So I'm going to find the other wire that says fuse. It's right here. Fuse. Put that there. And I'm not tightening this one up just yet because I'm not really sure exactly where I want this to go. I'm thinking about just zip tying it to the coolant overflow canister right there, because that seems like it would just be out of the way. So I'll probably do that. So I got that all tightened up, snug down with some tack welds right there on the coolant overflow. And I went ahead and put this cable right here onto the fuse block. And now I'm going to find the other wire that says fuse block or power distribution. I'll put that right there. Then I'll find my bolt for it. Get that started. I got the nut on there. I'm just going to tighten that up. no wiggling. You always want to make sure, even though you have this tight, that this does not move. So now I'm going to take that plastic piece right here, so it no longer fits, so I'm going to have to cut this to clearance for it. And you really don't even have to have this plastic piece, but I feel like it just cleans up the look a little bit. So got it clearanced right here. The next one that I'm going to do is the engine block to the negative battery terminal. I'm just going to reach in, tighten that up best that I can. So I've got that tightened up. Now I'll just run this right along here where the negative terminal will be on the battery. And now I can get this firewall and the back of the cylinder cable on. So this is the bolt that I'm getting out. It's a 15 millimeter, and you can see the ground strap right there. I'm going to try to do this without breaking it. I'm not making any promises. Oh yeah. So this one's pretty hard to see, but you see the focus right there in between those hoses. There's an 11/16 that I'll be taking off. So one thing that I have always seen on these Cherokees is this wiring harness right here for the fuel rail. It drops down and lands on top of the fuel rail, and it's been rubbing it pretty good, but it hasn't broke the wiring harness yet. So if you have one of these Cherokees, make sure that this wire loom right here isn't resting on your fuel rail, because that can cause some crazy issues with these Cherokees. So I'm going to zip tie that back up real quick. And then I can get this new battery cable over a little bit. So here is the original bolt that I broke, and all I did was just drill a hole right there and cleaned it up really good. And now I'll take the cable that says fender, pop right there, get a lock washer on the back, and just tighten that up really good. I'm not going to tighten it up yet just because I don't know if it needs to go up or down or anything like that. But now what I can do is get the battery in, and then I can start kind of cleaning up my wires in here a little bit. Now I'm getting the terminals on, and there is a positive and there is a negative. They say P and N. And so I'm just going to put this on here. And I did try to fix some of these wires that were already here. I did the best that I could do, or the best that I'm going to do. So now I've kind of figured out a way that the wires aren't in such a bind. If I do them like this, I may try to spin it around and see, because you don't want these wires in a bind. So I may put it this way, like that. Yeah, that's better. So you're going to have to play around with it just a little bit. Put that right there. Not tightening down anything just yet. And then I'll put this through there. So I don't have anything tight yet. I just want to make sure that nothing's rubbing or in a bind or anything like that. So now I'll do the same thing for the ground. So I've got everything ready to go. I don't have this tight though, just because I'm still doing some wiring on the fan, but man, does that look a lot better. Just something simple like that just makes me feel 10 times better about this Jeep. And I realize that this is a budget build Cherokee, but I feel like these Jeep cables are definitely a good investment, even if it is your budget Cherokee, just because so many problems can come from lack of current or, you know, drop in voltage. And plus they come with really cool stickers. So definitely check out JeepCables.com to get some cables for your Jeep. All right, so I have pretty much everything tidied up. Got the fan wiring good for right now. I did put some wire loom around it. I've got to put a little bit more wire loom, but now I'm going to test to see if the fans come on. So before, this switch was just dangling down by the brake pedal, so I just put it right here and hopefully it'll come on. Oh yeah. You can see all 3 fans are working. Man, that is moving some air. Holy crap. I can feel it on my toes.